Questa è la direzione dell'energia positiva. Le anfore sono 47, tutte georgiane. La cantina è stata costruita prima di avere tutte le anfore. Abbiamo impiegato 5 anni perché le prime arrivavano in modo disastroso. Nel 2000, primo carico con 11 anfore, è partito ad agosto dalla Georgia, sono arrivati a novembre, ma 9 erano rotte, solo 2 sono arrivate. Ci è voluto tanto per avere le anfore. Queste con il tappo sono piene, queste sono semplicemente coperte. Questa è da circa 1800 litri. Quando sei dentro ti dà una sensazione come quando ti svegli la mattina e di notte ha nevicato. Non è proprio tutto zitto, ma tutti i rumori sono attutiti, sono più gentili.
Ma come mai avete deciso di mettere sottoterra?
Perché queste sono anfore georgiane e a differenza delle altre anfore, le mediterranee europee, hanno uno spessore di argilla molto sottile. L'argilla va dai 2 ai 4 cm, troppo sottile per sostenere e per resistere alla pressione che crea questo volume di liquido. In questo modo anche il terreno che è attorno all'anfora controlla la temperatura durante la fermentazione. Questa è la particolarità dell'anfora georgiana, oltre all'argilla con cui viene fatta. E c'è in tante parti del mondo, anche in Bolivia, ci sono dei posti dove fanno vino con delle anfore, normalmente sono più piccole, però sono anfore che vengono interrate anche lì. L'argilla è stato uno dei primi contenitori perché il vetro era comunque costoso e spesso veniva usato solo nella parte finale, era un materiale nobile, mentre l'argilla era un po' più popolare e quindi potevano permetterselo anche nelle case normali. We are in the second part of our cellar. These are the barrels. In Italian they are called tino. The ribolla is elevated here for the next 6 years after the first year in amphora. Our winery has about 16 hectares of vineyard. Since 2030 we only produce ribolla because we believe ribolla adapted to this terroir. For long skin fermented wines in our area is the best option we have.
Oh, so it's kind of your signature wine.
It's what we are recognized for, it's true. Our average production was in normal vintages between 25 and 34,000 bottles. Since 2012, we had always very rainy harvesting, which means we were obligated. We had to deeply select the grapes during the harvesting. We always harvest by hand. The production since 2012 fell down. We are below 20,000 bottles. This is my grandfather's cellar, so you can see the change in architecture. This was the cellar until the mid-70s, became the barrique, so the small barrel cellar during the 80s. In the mid-90s, we went back to big barrels. In these 3 rooms, we have the whole production from 2014 up to 2019 and the red wines from 2020. These are few old barriques from the 90s. When you have a small quantity of wine, you need a small barrel, and usually these wines are used for racking the wines.
So where is the Rosso?
Rosso Breg is the Pignolo, is bottled as Rosso Breg. Instead of Merlot, depending on the vintage, is bottled as Rosso Gravner, if it's a normal vintage, usually released after 8 years, or Rosso Ruino, when it's a selection and it's released after 14 years.
What is this?
This is an old press. Josko is very in love with old engines.
It's not in use.
No, of course not. But you know, in the 70s, in the 60s, 80s, people having these stuffs at home were supposed to be just a waste of room. And most of people were just putting them away. And when Josko found some of these old engines, he always bought. What's particular is this part, because usually this was made in stone.
And this is wood?
And this is wood, yes. It's about 200 years, but we are not completely sure.
It's amazing.
It is, yes. And you see, in the past, the basket has never been round as today is, because square was easier to make.
Tell us about the evolution of the wine. Were there any significant changes?
Wines fermented on the skins can be preserved for a much longer period, and for a skin fermented wines become even longer. You can easily preserve them for 20, 25, 30 years, which was in the past supposed not to be possible with white wines. More and more people are interested in following the evolution of a white wine can be. We have two important vineyards on the Slovenian side. Hum and Dedno are in Slovenia. Hum is less than 3 kilometers far from the cellar, but in between we have the border. This hasn't been our decision. Just after the Second World War II, when they decided the new border, few of our fields became at the time Yugoslavian, nowadays Slovenia. We have a special permissions in order to bring the grapes from Slovenia into Italy. The most important thing preparing a new vineyard is to manage the drainage, which means to allow the water to exit in a safe way, not damaging the terraces. For this, it takes us sometimes even a few years to prepare it, because we need to perfectly know how the water is moving in the vineyards, so in the soil. This is the border, yes.
So before 2004, before joining the European Union, how did you manage vineyards?
We had special permission in order to be able to reach our vineyards. So
to cross the border?
Yes, if you are a farmer and you have soil or fields on both of the sides, you are allowed to cross in special places the border.
What is the stories with the cypresses?
It's the strongest natural wind stopper. The roots are the same size the tree itself is.
So it's deep as the height?
Yes. For this reason, it's very resistant to the wind. Cypresses are usually in Mediterranean climate, which means it shows you which kind of climate we have. My father always says that making sparkling wines where cypresses can live, it's a damage, because where cypresses live, grapes can be completely ripe.
You have ribolla also on the other side,
yes.
Right? Are there any differences?
No, not so many. Even because we reproduce our plants when we prepare new wines, we use our old ribolla plants.
And what are these stones?
This is flesh. When you find so big pieces, it's impossible to break them, so we just take them away. This is one of our ponds. In Italy, in order to prepare a pond, you need a construction permission. In Slovenia, no permission is requested, but you have to take water from the tap. And this is gambusia. Gambusia is a fish which preserves the water clean. In a well-balanced environment, a pond is clean. We have often frogs and other animals coming here. We have a lot of birds. All these help to make a little bit more natural environment. Of course, this is made by the humans, but at least we try to help the nature to get a little bit back.
But are you using this water at all?
No, in this area we have almost the same quantity of rain as Bordeaux area has, so pretty rainy. Almost the same quantity of sun as Tuscany has. It's a wonderful combination, which means even that we don't need the irrigation. And ribolla, it's a very resistant variety which doesn't need a lot of water. The vines just need to put the roots very deep, and this is enough. Okay, let's go to the next one. Since the early 90s, we started moving toward biological production, but we are not certificated. And this is the 6th year we used even the biodynamical preparates. We don't prepare them, we buy them because we are still not able to make them. We have been able to reduce all the chemicals with the biodynamical preparates. The vine itself is much more balanced. The house in front of us was Joško's grandmother's house.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yes.
So he lives in Slovenia?
Yes. Just below the house, you see this vineyard which is much darker.
Yes, why is that?
Because it's a vineyard from the 60s, is the Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon vineyard is the one giving us the Rosso Gravner, Rosso Ruino. What we believe is that wine is not necessary to survive, which means that wine is a kind of luxury, and the luxury has to be, first of all, safe and clean. We can't have a good wine made with grapes strongly sprayed with chemicals. We prefer lose a little bit of quantity, but preserving the quality of the grape. In our area, it's much more important the quality of the soil, despite the exposure. If you have a really good soil, the soil can overcome a not perfect exposure. When vine started growing, Joshko noted that we were just reproducing another monoculture. For this reason, he planted a lot of trees in between the terraces. He left much more room between terraces in order to have much more trees for other plants, not only vines. In some parts of the world, you have even to care about not having shadow over the vines, but we have so much sun that having a bit of shadow is absolutely not a damage. In Italy, we have this stupid joke when a child is not very good at school or don't really care about studying. Has always been, you could just be a writer or go to be a farmer. And it's very stupid because it's not something so simple to do. The main taste comes from the skin.
Skin is the real protagonist.
Yes. If it's raining, a lot of water is coming into the berries and they could break and start being rotten. These two, you see, the berries are not all, they are two, so this is a good one. Since we had this hailstorm, we stopped the green harvesting and we are doing it now because it was stupid to have the green harvest and losing grapes for the hailstorm.
So that's a wrap. This is the teaser to the upcoming interview with Mattea Gravner. I know I look kind of depressed throughout the video, but it was because I was so enthralled with the conversations. And don't forget to follow us on Italian Wine Podcast, on SoundCloud, Spotify, on YouTube, and wherever you get your pods. That's it.
So what's up with the lights up over here?
I need only to...
It's pretty bright. Is it because it's dark here?
Yes, some places are very dark and I have to clean the cellar, so it can be...
It's useful.
Yeah, it's useful.
Okay, all right, because I was wondering, like, where is it going? Like mining?
No, but you know, a lot of technical stuffs, especially for mountains, are very useful in cellars. Think about pruning. All these technical stuffs are beloved by the winemakers.
No, you go into the amphoras? I thought you were too big.
No.
Yeah.
No, I have to say, amphora is pretty easy. But if we are talking about bars...
That's more difficult? Oh, so these are more difficult? Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
On the second floor, it's in amphora you go in vertical and you exit in the same way.
The ladder.
Yes.
Yeah.